Hello from Hamburg. I hope if you celebrated Christmas, you had a good Christmas. We are live post Christmas. So this will be somewhat of a short stream because I think we won't have so many people joining in, and we also don't have so much to talk about from the week. Um, what have I been up to? I'm still in Germany. I'm starting to feel the effects of the long German dark days, or I guess I should say short days. Um, Starting to feel kind of pasty and missing the ocean myself. So I'm hoping to get back to Maui very soon. We were spending Christmas time with my wife's family in Germany. Hey, Dom Dom. I hope everyone had a nice holiday if they celebrate the holiday. And if you're able to get on the water, I hope you had a good session. So let me know how it was. Uh, I'm going to load up the Facebook page and just roll through it like we always do. I hope you guys, like I said, I hope you guys are having a good time. These are in the Northern Hemisphere, short, dark days. So it's nice to spend it with family. It's hard to get on the water, I think, in the Northern Hemisphere these days. No, Maui looks like it's been good. Again, I'm itching to get back to Maui. I'm planning to go back to Maui just shortly after New Year, and I'm really looking forward to being there. Hey, Hans. Oh, quarantine for Christmas. Yeah, tough. Hey, Rich. Good to see you guys rolling in. So I'm gonna just pull up the Facebook page and just go about our normal business. So, ask your questions. Hey, Mert. Yeah, cool that you did some surfing. That is great to hear. Um, yeah, Mert, I'm stoked on that. Hey, John. Yeah, I wanted to say a little something about Carl. I was going to do that at the end, but I'll say it now, John, since you're here. So, hey, Carl. So, some sad news to start things off. Carl passed away this week, this week, after a cycling accident. I don't know the details of it, um, but it's very tragic, very sad. He was a very dedicated member of our community, very enthusiastic windsurfer. He was very active in the live streams and in posting in the group. He joined our clinic in Denmark. He was just a really nice guy, really good windsurfer, really enthusiastic, and really friendly. I don't think anyone has a bad word to say about him. So it's quite sad. I was very sad when I heard the news. Um, yeah, so I've got a couple little things I want to share. There were some really nice stories um, about him posted in the group, which we can get to in a second. Um, yeah, I found this little video from our camp, and I'll go back to the beginning. So we were doing this as part of our training in Denmark, and this is Carl up front, really giving it his all, and this can be quite a difficult exercise doing the ladder drills when you first do it. And John, I have the same thing to say for you. Like it's hard, but it's good when it's hard, and then you have to really push through it. And both with John and Carl, I was really impressed with their tenacity and dedication, pushing through the difficulty for this coordination exercise. And um, yeah, it's just so tragic that happened. I'm gonna share my window. We'll get into the Facebook group and read some of the other stories. Hey, Dennis. So yeah, let's get to the thread. So this is a photo from the tip top of Denmark, and we didn't have much wind. This is me and Carl walking across the dunes to get to the water. Some really nice stories from people who knew Carl and sharing their experience. with him. And yeah, it's really, really sad. He was super nice guy, really friendly, definitely made all the experiences richer. Hey, York. Hey, Sammy. Alex. So yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Carl, and yeah, really just stress how nice he was, and just how much richer he made the community, both in our online community, the in-person community. I'm sure all other lives that he touched in all other communities. So yeah, it's quite sad. I think he would want us all though to keep windsurfing and keep pushing in his honor, and get on with it. So at first I was a bit conflicted with how to do this stream, because I thought, how do I talk about Carl and then also do the other coaching where I want to be enthusiastic and happy and energetic, and I don't know if I can combine those motions, because it's so, they're so contrasted. It's so hard. But I think that Carl would want us to continue to be enthusiastic and happy, and pushing forward with our passions and our windsurfing. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. And I'm going to try to do somewhat of a normal coaching. It'll be a little bit abbreviated, a little bit rushed. But so in Carl's honor, I'm going to pull it together, and push through with coaching like we normally do. So this one is dedicated to Carl, which is a small thing for the large impact that he had. He was there in the very beginning when I started doing this coaching. He was one of the first people to start watching. A lot of you guys were there in the beginning. Dom. Dennis was there pretty early. Carl as well. And Carl was very active early in the community, and giving feedback and helping to grow the community to make it what it is. And, without the early group, Carl, Dom, this crew of people, I don't think it wouldn't have become what it did become. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other names, but that's not the point right now. So thank you, Carl. And I'm really happy to have met you and to share the experiences that I did with you. All right, so in Carl's honor, let's move into the coaching like we normally do. So you guys can, of course, interject in the chat. You guys know the drill by now. All right, I'm gonna change notes, and again, try to get into this. It's dedicated to Carl. I know he'd want me to be enthusiastic and passionate and continuing on in this community that he helped form, he helped shape. So with that, I'm going to get into the rest of it. All right, John, have a great evening. Happy holidays. We'll see you soon. So Alex hurt his back. Whew, bad news. I hope you're okay. Alex, I see you're in the chat. How bad is it? What happened? You don't say what happens here, right? What did it happen windsurfing, or was it something else? I always find these things can happen in such weird ways. Like, I did a backflip on the playground with my son, and I landed weird, and that tweaked my back for a few weeks last year, which is just the stupidest thing. I really did not need to do a backflip on the play. It was just, anyway. And so I find that there's more issues with these random things than with windsurfing itself, though my biggest injuries have been from windsurfing. But I do wonder what happened, Alex. There's some good advice in here. I really think it's good to see, and this is something that I say elsewhere, I think it's really important, whether you're injured or not, to see a good physical therapist. A good physio is priceless. And I know that some people are turned off because of the cost, but it's really worth it. And when it comes to your body, that extra 100 euros or whatever it is very, very much worth it. And the important thing is you want to see a physio who works with athletes. There seems to be two different kinds of physios, ones who work with old people and ones who works with athletes. You want to make sure you're working with a physio who works with athletes because they've got different kind of goals and training methods to help you. If you want to be in touch with someone, I can connect you to some people virtually. Who's a physical therapist? Jagger Stone, who's also one of the best windsurfers of the current era. And he's also a practicing physio. So I often ask him, whenever I have something going on, I ask him first before I go in for an official appointment. And I have some good physios on Maui as well, and also one or two in Hamburg that I trust. But anyway, so I really recommend everyone, whether you're injured or not, because if you're not injured, you can meet with someone and have a preventative session. They can look at you and see where your weaknesses are, give you some exercises that you can do at home. And so then you only need to see the physio if it's preventative, maybe once every 4 months, and get the exercises, do them at home, and you're good to go. And then you're preventing possible injuries. If you are injured, you might need to see someone more often. And there's two parts to it. It's the exercises and stretches that you can do to help train your body. But there's also manual work that they can do. Sometimes you get a muscle that's really cramped up, and that's causing a lot of other problems. I've had that in my back from windsurfing, especially after sailing in the Canaries for a month, where things just get tight and kind of misaligned. And most massage therapists aren't trained or are not skilled enough to get those muscles loosened up or everything straightened out, whereas a physio will be trained and will have that knowledge to do that. So anyway, so there's two sides to it. One is the stretching and exercises, and then there's also the manual work that they can do for you as well. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it. But again, it's got to be a physio that works with athletes. So yeah, I saw Alex. I didn't mention it, but this happened while you were riding your bike. Yeah, bummer. Bummer. I hope that you are healing up. And yeah, I just see in the chat, you said you've been going to the physio every 6 weeks for 10 years for a sports massage, and the chiropractor 8 weeks for the past year or two. So it sounds like you've been doing that. So right on you. I'm sorry that this happened. Bummer. It looks like you've been covering those basics, covering those bases and doing the basics. Bummer. Sometimes things happen. Hopefully, the work you've been putting in will mean that you've got a faster recovery. Someone who sometimes posts in the group is PP Jutis, Dennis, who's in the chat, has done some work with. And I know some of the other guys in the group have done some work with him, and he puts together programs for windsurfers. And I'm going to have him on, because we've had some contact one-on-one, and I'd like to have him on, interview him. We can ask him some questions like this. I don't know what the timing would be for that, but it's something he's interested in doing. And so we can get in there. Nice that you sailed. Isn't that funny? Sometimes you can barely walk, but you can still go windsurfing. Like, when did I've had that a lot in my life, but I had that recently with something where I really couldn't walk because I was in so much pain and things were just not working, but I was still able to windsurf. It's weird how that works. I don't know what's going on there. So get well anyway. All right. So now we've got a question. So this is a long thread that goes back a month or so. And Thomas is talking about flying to Cape Town and what to bring. And he's got, hey, Rogar, he's got He wants to bring 4 sails to Cape Town, 3-4 to 5-0, and 1 board. And it's difficult because of the bag requirements and going over 32 kilos. And the struggle is real. I really get it. But I do think you need to bring your 5-0. If you don't bring your 5-0, there's a lot of days you're going to miss. If you have to cut a sail out, I would cut out the 3-4, which I also don't recommend doing. But you can at least sail on the 4-0 overpowered on a 3-4 day. Whereas if your biggest sail is a 4-5, you're going to miss a lot of days. And you're going down there to windsurf. There's a lot of good days on the 5-0. Bring your 5-0. I think it's not an answer not to bring the 5-0. And I would try to just, Dum Dum, that's a good question. And I don't know. So if we bring him on the stream, so Dum Dum's question is about PP. Here, I can pull that up. I'm not sure. We can bring him on the stream and we can talk with him and we'll find out. And we can bring other people on the stream as well. I'd love to get Jagger on, maybe some of the other physios that I've worked with personally and trainers. All right, so Carl's talking about what bags she took. She said she took 4 bags, 3 ski equipment. It was for free. Which airline were you on, Carl? So I'm gonna get back to this. I think you want to bring all this equipment and just find a way to do it. So you've got your 84-liter board. You've got, I guess this is 2 mass. Is this a 370 and a 400? I don't know if you need a 340 for your 3-4. So maybe it's 3 mass. Otherwise, I don't know if the Goyas have a variable top, but you could also just use the 370 on the 3-4 if you don't want to bring in extra mast. And then put the bases, extensions, everything else in another bag and check it as a normal bag, which will be a bit cheaper. But I think it's worth the effort to try to bring it. And generally you can get it so that you just have one board bag. I don't travel, you say I'm accustomed to the luxury of bringing a lot of bags. Yes and no. I mean, I'm used to traveling with a lot of gear, but also I try to keep it pretty minimum. And if you have your one big board bag and then another bag that checks in as a regular bag, that often works pretty well. So I think if you have one board, 4 sails, 2 masts, your boom, you should be able to get that under 32 kilos. What kind of board bag do you have? Because that's another question in here, which I don't think is answered. You want to make sure you have a board bag without wheels, something that is lightweight. There's these bags from Cobra. I don't know where you buy them actually. In the industry, all the pro guys have them. Like Caro, I think you also have the Cobra bags from Patrick. They're lightweight. They offer enough protection, but you don't want a bag that's starting out already weighs 10 kilos, right? So you want a bag that's as light as can be. And I think there's even lighter bags than these Cobra bags that everyone uses. So you want to make sure you've got a really light bag, and that helps with bringing the gear. Yeah, I think with this, you can get to around 32, but then you've got to have your, post a picture of your bag, Thomas, post it in the Facebook group. I want to see it. See how heavy it is. But I think there's a way you can get it so that the big bag is under 32, or it's around, maybe it's 33, which will be fine. 34, which will be fine. Yeah. So I guess you're saying that you need to bring an extra 400 plus the sail, which should add, it should add about like 5 kilos, something like that, 4 kilos. And I don't travel with the bags for my sails to save weight. You put all the like extensions, tools, bases, all of that stuff in another bag. Yeah, you can get the sails into like a kind of a golf bag, kite bag. I've got some kite bags, which then often they'll count as just a normal bag. But I think it's where you. I think you have to take the 5.0. I think you'll really regret it if you don't take the 5.0. So how you handle the rest, I'm not sure. Whether you leave the 3.4 or whatever it is, but I think the 5.0 is really worth it. And I'm not sure with Lufthansa. And this is another reason, if you travel a lot, to stick with one airline so you get a little bit of status. Because once you get some frequent flyer status, they treat you a lot better with the bags, and they're a lot more lenient with how they count things. And you get some free bags as well. So if you do travel a lot, it is worth looking into one of these programs. I travel with Star Alliance normally, and yeah. Anyway, it does pay off. If you have the status, you have to do a certain number of flights for it to be worth it. But that number depends. It's not so many flights. All right, so post a picture of your bag, Thomas, and let us know how you figure it out, because I think the 5.0 is important. I would not go there without the 5.0. All right, I've got this competition going. So the prize is a duffel bag, and it's whoever can give the best advice, and we can have multiple winners on this as well, to help others to get that high five contact high enough on the wave. Because we see a lot of people trying to go for the high five, but they're mid face on the wave. They're not coming up to the top of the wave. And that's something that's come up a lot in the coaching that we've done previously. And so there's some good 39 comments. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. I'm going through all of these all the time. And hey, Max, I'm going to determine the winner at some point soon. And it's just the advice that helps the most people. So it's also driven by what people say helps them. And when I give that advice to other people, what sticks with them. So that competition is ongoing. So check that out. If you're trying to hit the wave higher up, read that thread. And then if you have advice how to do it, comment on that thread. Hey, Jeff. Yeah, we already had a shout out to Carl. More than a shout out. I talked about him a little bit and how much he touched this community and me and my coaching. And just how great and nice and enthusiastic a guy he is. And this, I dedicated this live stream to him. And I mean, that's a pretty small thing. He touched this community so much more than just that. I mean, he was there in the beginning when I started doing this coaching and helped shape where we are today and build this community. He was a foundational member and just a solid guy. So, but he would want us to continue with a smile on our face and with passion in our heart, continuing what he helped build. So if you want to go back, you can see what I said about him originally. And we're going to get on with the stream, but dedicated Carl. I should put that on the thing. Let me see if I can change this. Again, I'm new to this program. We used this last week. Let's see how this works. All right. Okay, does this work? Yeah, there we go. That works. Okay. Hey, Brian. All right, so moving back. So we've got a question from Alex. His local spot gets super windy quite often, and he's only 70 kilos, so he's looking for a small board. And he found to Taboo Quad 67 liters from 2014 and really likes it. That's great. The stance comes to 49.5 centimeters. And yeah, that sounds like a good stance. So I've talked about stance and boards before, and I think most people go too narrow. You could go a little bit narrower than this, but you want to have a wide stance. So we've talked a lot about stances previously, and I've got a lot of videos about stance. And so I think that even though this seems really wide, it's kind of in the range that you want to be looking at. I think you could go one hole narrower. And if you can, I think you can, right? I think you can go a hole narrower. Yeah. Yeah. So you could come back a hole on the front or go forward on the back. If you come maybe a hole narrower or even 2 holes narrower, if that's possible, it would also work. But I think this is a decent range. I think if you come, yeah, maybe 1 hole narrower, I think that might be a little bit more comfortable for you, but wide stance is not bad. And a lot of other people really like the board as well. So cool. All right. I posted this video about Christmas gifts for windsurfers or what you can get yourself. Off the top of my head, carbon booms, footage. So either an action cam like the GoPro or the Insta360, or hiring someone to film because footage is the best way to get better. And we all like to see ourselves. And then a trainer, like a physical therapist trainer sessions, take care of your body, good for your performance, good for injury prevention. And then small gifts are like a good screwdriver, a Phillips #3, big Phillips #3, big screwdriver, because those little ratchet things, they break when you need them the most. Having a big screwdriver is really important for adjusting your foot straps and pins and everything else. And then solar res is something that I think is also important to always have with you, especially when you're traveling. We've got these nice Christmas wishes from Mika. Thanks for sharing that. Ogus is asking about destinations for April and June. Warm weather and water, nice waves, good wind, and not expensive. So Maui is all of those things except it is expensive. But we've got some good things in here. Morocco, I think, is a good location. John mentions Punta San Carlos, which is a great location, but it is not cheap, unfortunately. Moritz has some options. Cold Hawaii, which I think is cold. Bisant and Brittany, I think these all have good conditions, but are on the colder side. Axel recommends Portugal, which I also think is a good choice. I think Portugal, Morocco, those are great choices that fit all of these descriptions of wind, waves, warm weather, not too expensive. For Portugal, I think Axel is referring up in the north, like Viana, which is great if you're getting into waves. It's somewhere that I want to do some coaching and explore. I've more experience in the south. So this is a great tip from Axel. Love it. Jennifer talks about the Oregon coast. I love sailing the Oregon coast, and I was thinking of maybe even doing a trip there in May. And so we've got some advice from Jennifer and Dana Miller, which is cool. He's saying spring is the new summer. Dana Miller is the master, the expert up there. And I would love to go back. It's been a few years since I've been. This is an old thread on center fins. Some more advice posted recently. That's cool to see. Here's Steve Thorpe, Mr. K4, working on the Wave 360s. And we've worked on Wave 360s before with Steve. And this shows a lot of progress. He's not carving too far into the turn. He's keeping this front arm close to his body and extending the back arm and leaning into the turn. All great. The timing is also good. You can see he gets knocked back into the wave. What I want to see for this kind of section is Steve to sheet in the sail earlier. So here, pull in the sail and twist the hips to force the rotation around before getting airborne too much. Now, there's different technique for different kinds of waves. And what you don't want to do, Steve, is then go back to your old habit of then getting the board pointing way up around the clock. You want to keep the board this position so you get up exactly the same, but you're pulling in the sail here. And that will just help you kick around the rotation a bit faster, cleaner, smoother to come back in front for this kind of 360. You're so close. I want to be there when you make the first one. Here's another video from Steve going for a cheese roll, but he said it ended up being more like a forward. I want to see you look back at the beach. So instead of looking forward, really look back at the beach, pull the sail towards the back of the board and see what happens. It's cool to learn new moves, especially when you've been forward looping for so long and you're so good at forward loops like you are, Steve. It's really cool to push yourself to learn a different rotation. This is an old thread with some more gold that keeps being posted under it. Love to see it. And this is a really nice letter from Max. Max, I think you're still in the chat. Thank you. This warmed my heart to read. So thank you very much for posting this. I've really loved being part of this community as well. So many other things in my life, so many other professional parts of my life, they are challenging and I enjoy them, but they're not nearly as rewarding as this coaching experience is for me. Like with a competition, for example, competing in windsurfing, which I've done, at the highest level for, how old am I? So I've done this for over half my life now. And it's something that I obviously enjoy doing, or I wouldn't do it as much as I do. But it's a weird kind of pleasure that isn't very fulfilling. Even when you do well, even when you win, even when you get on the podium, you'll want to do it again. Or if you got third, you're sad that you didn't get second or first or whatever it is. And then if you do worse, you're always disappointed, even with good results. Looking back at different good results I've had, at the time, I was not happy because I didn't win. And even when I did win, then I wanted to win the next one. It's just not very fulfilling work, whereas it's so rewarding for me doing this coaching because I'm able to share, this knowledge that I've acquired from dedicating my life to windsurfing and all the experiences I have. And it's so nice to be able to do that. And I feel so good about it. It's so different than doing a competition where it's so much just so individual and just unfulfilling, I guess, at the end of the day. So Max, thank you for writing this. I really appreciate hearing your words. And thank you all for being part of this community, being so great. So thank you. Thank you to everyone. Got a quick question from Dom, and then we'll get on to this question from Ogus. Dom says, what rank do you need to be able to make a living in wave sailing? That's a good question. I think that with wave sailing, separate from slalom, there are wave sailors that don't have the best rank that are still able to get paid because they're good windsurfers. So someone like Bujma has never had a good world tour ranking, but he's one of the most well-known wave sailors in the world, and maybe more well-known than someone like Omar Sanchez, who's a great sailor and has had a much better world tour ranking than Bujma over the years. But Bujma is doing something else and something really special that doesn't necessarily come across in a competitive format, but the windsurfing world recognizes that and rewards him for it. Or Levi, for example, Levi, has had some good results, but he's also struggled with results. And there were years where he wasn't competing at all. And yet a lot of people still considered him one of the best windsurfers in the world. And he was getting paid really well for that. So it's not all about rank. I think if you break into the top 16, the top 10, you can make a living from it. It's not a great living, but you cover your costs, cover your expenses. And then if you're outside of that top 10, top 16, you've got to do some extra work. And that can be work in windsurfing. So it can be, if you're doing some promotion, if you're doing some videos, you're doing some stuff on Instagram, some other work, then you can actually cover your costs with it. So I would probably say that the top 25, top 20 of the wave fleet are making a living from windsurfing in some capacity. They might be doing other work like testing or other work like, they're not just competing. I'd have to go down the list to see where the first person is that really is doing significant other work, or that isn't able to fund themselves with windsurfing. So I could pull it up and tell you where that cutoff point is. Yeah, so it's about the top 20 in the waves. And then there are some people, outside of the top 20 who are also making a living from windsurfing or surfing. So like Kai Lenny, for example, obviously makes a living from surfing. Artur Rutkin, he was ranked 30th in 2019. But between stand-up and windsurfing, he makes a living out of it. And then, there are a few other people as well that are, like I said, that aren't really ranked, that make a living from it, like Bujma, for example. But anyway, so I hope that kind of answers your question. Or like Flo Young, is outside of the top 20, but he does a lot of other work. You see him in the magazines. He does all the stories around. So yeah, as Carl said, it's a different situation for the women, unfortunately. Hey, Matt. Hey, Edwards. Nice to hear you had a good session in Cabo Verde. Where? In Punta Preta? All right, so Orguz asks, sometimes I get backwinded for a slight moment after the bottom turn, before the transition. I try to open the clue, but it happens anyway sometimes. Conditions are slog and ride, side shore, 2 to 3 meters, fast wave. Any idea why that happens and how to avoid it? I'd love to get some footage, photos, or video of this to give you better coaching. And that might help me give you a better answer. One thing that I would say is that you want to make sure in the cutback, if I understand your question, that you really want to be hanging from the gear. You don't want to be pulling yourself up to the gear. You want to be hanging from the boom and really focusing on using the board rather than the sail, especially if it's side shore, especially if the wave has some amount of power, which it seems like it does from your description. You really want to focus on the board more than the sail. Make sure the board is really carving. And then to do that, you want to be really hanging from the boom on the cutback. And then sometimes, and maybe this is what you're talking about, as you lean back over again, there's kind of a moment of backwind on the sail. But and especially if the wind is really offshore, but as long as you're picking up the speed from the wave and then getting enough board speed, it shouldn't be a problem. But if you have some video or photo, it'll help me understand your question better. Or you can just post it in the chat. I'll write that now. Edwards, where did you sail? Where was it? Was it Punta Preta? All right, and I think that wraps up. Yep, that's everything that was posted in the group. So, solid stream, dedicated to Carl. He will be missed, very, very missed. Edwards, I'm waiting to hear where you sailed. I very much enjoy sailing in Cabo Verde. And it looks like we'll go back. So Hans is saying about Tomas' comment on that thread. Hans, you're talking about the comment on the thread about being backwinded, right? Oops, did I go back too far? And Jeff, how's the cheese roll journey going? All right, so Tomas says, what can happen on float and ride, I think happens because you're relatively fast compared to the wind. The apparent wind direction gets much more upwind coming from. Yeah, and this happens when you're being towed. So, for example, when you're towed by a jet ski or something, you're holding on to the sail and holding on to the jet ski. So, like, for example, with the tow and freestyle, you get backwinded, you get the wind from the other side. Nice, Edward. Stoked to hear it. Glad that you had a good session. And I think this can also happen when you have powerful waves and really offshore wind as well. Something similar happens. I mean, I guess it depends. It can also happen with side to or onshore wind. So maybe it doesn't make a difference with the wind direction. And yeah, I think this is right about the theory of why you get backwinded. Yeah, and I think actually this is good advice that you want to be sheeting in rather than sheeting out against it. So I like this advice that you want to sheet in with it, sheet in and lean into it rather than sheet out, because that's going to cause you to be more backwinded. So I agree with the sheeting in part. But I want to hear a little bit more from Ogus about the exact situation he means. I'm just going to say that here. I agree with sheeting in instead of sheeting out. But that's just different than in the cutback, because in the cutback, you really want to hang from the boom for the bottom turn and the transition cutback. Yep. So a bit nuanced here, but I think you want to lean into it rather than sheet out against the backwind. But I'm not sure that we're talking about the same things here. And so when you're coming out of the cutback, you want to then get your weight up again over the center line of the board and helping drive the board down. All right. So that's it from the group. What do you guys have more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to say happy holidays and wrap it up. What is next week Sunday? Next week Sunday is the 2nd. And so, yeah, I'll be back again on the 2nd. I'll probably still be in Germany. Our tickets are for like the 5th or 6th or something to Maui. So I will definitely still be in Germany. I don't know where else I would be. But anyway, guys and girls, great stream. I hope that you guys have a good, safe holiday. I won't see you before New Year's. If you celebrate New Year's, take care. Hope you can get on the water, get a good session, get some footage, post in the group. This is a busy time in terms of families and getting stuff sorted before the end of the year. So I don't know if I can get anything posted in the group before we see each other again in the live stream. But if you guys post, I'll try to check it out and post some comments, responses, etc., etc. Thank you guys for joining. And this is the last stream of the year. So I want to say thank you all for being part of this community. As I already said, this is something that's really rewarding for me. And you guys make it so wonderful. So I really look forward to seeing you in 2022. Thank you again for making a great year. Take care. All right, I'm going to sign off. And I really hope you guys have a good New Year's and get some sailing in. All right. Bye.